It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me.
Welcome back, Bubba Bunch, to another edition of the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast. It is episode 217, and we had to come on here on my work day because it is very, very important news to talk about. J.J. Watt finally signs with an NFL team. He is going to Arizona to reunite with DeAndre Hopkins, and he has joined the Cardinals on their pursuit to the playoffs. Now, we did an episode on where J.J. Watt should go, and 3 names came about that really made sense to me. We talked about Arizona. We talked about Dallas a little bit. We didn't really talk about Indianapolis, even though they were one of the contenders to get J.J. Watt, and we'll get to them in a second. But this move is making me really kind of go back and forth. I like the move. I don't like the move. And as the day went on, I just really thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know about this. I really don't. So I wanted to come on here and talk about it. We're going to get a lot of episodes done over the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. My last video got 8 views, which really shocked me because 6 of them came in the first 24 hours, and it shocked me. So thank you for anybody that checked that video out. We're at 95 subscribers. We're at 96, but someone decided to unsubscribe. Whoever you are, hey, Godspeed. But still at 95 subscribers. We're doing good on the audio platforms as well, so I just got to put more content out there. I'm trying my best, guys, but it's kind of hard when you get home and it's like midnight. So, but no excuses. Here I am, trying my best. So let's get right into the video. I hope everyone's having a great day, unless you actually enjoy watching Florida Bama Shore. We get it. You're living in the past with Jersey Shore. It was a great show. But trying to relive it with Florida Bama, it just doesn't work out. So if you watch that show, anyways, hope you're having a great day. But let's talk about J.J. Watt. Look, 2 years, $31 million. Checked it out. It was actually $23 million of that is guaranteed. So basically the entire contract is guaranteed for J.J. Watt. It makes sense. It's a good deal if you really consider that, knowing that this defense is growing, this defense is progressing. They actually did a very good job last year under Vance Joseph in his first year, and I see potential in this defense, which was really a bad look in Kyler Murray's first year. We saw that the offensive line needed work, and we needed a defense that could at least stop an offense to some degree to get Kyler Murray some more possessions. And then you saw it in this past season under a system that doesn't really favor a defensive-minded team under Cliff Kingsbury. It's more of what you see in the Big 12. It is very offensive-minded. It's going to focus on that. We have a very talented offense that is carried by Kyler Murray, that running game, and also with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins last year. You saw the moments of where this offense could just take over the league, and they're just so fun to watch. They were my sleeper team this past season, and even though they ended up 8-8, there was a lot of potential with this team. They won 5 of their first 7 games, and then they lost 5 of their last 7 games. So you just saw the counterbalance, and you saw the good and the bad for this Kyler Murray-led team. But that defense, Budda Baker played his ass off last year, and he is going to be really fun to watch this year. They did lose Chandler Jones midway through the season due to that bicep injury that left them out for the rest of the year. So there is a good, okay, he's coming back, a good glass half full mentality with it, that they didn't really beat us at our best because we didn't have our best. So Chandler Jones is coming back. Vance Joseph is coming back for his second year. And both of these things are really good reasons why J.J. Watt went to Arizona. Vance Joseph was actually with him in his rookie season as a defensive back coach in Houston. So there is that connection there. Obviously, there's a connection with DeAndre Hopkins for many years in Houston. But like we talked about with, let's say, Cleveland and Myles Garrett, or with the Steelers and TJ Watt, there is that duo partner that you would like to be with. And if it's Arizona, it's going to be Chandler Jones. If you look back to the stats and reading about it, since 2012, the like two of the three league leaders in sacks since 2012 have been Chandler Jones and JJ Watt. So put them together, you're going to have a nice day stat-wise. So it makes sense there to have Chandler Jones and JJ Watt together. You can also say under Vance Joseph, they can learn from each other, get back together, and really build something great in Arizona with that defense. This is what Arizona needed, was another star-studded pass rusher to go along Chandler Jones, but another playmaker. Like, they thought that Isaiah Simmons would be that. We'll see what he does in his second year, but knowing for a fact that J.J. Watt can come in and be productive day one, that is huge for this defense, and it helps out Vance Joseph to stay in Arizona, and it makes the defense better. It makes Kyler Murray feel more comfortable and less anxious, knowing that he doesn't have to do everything for this team. That offense will get better. Kyler Murray in his third year will be tremendously better now that he's dealt with a little bit of the issues. We saw Baker strive in his third year after knowing, like, oh, it's not all, rainbows and sunshine. Like, there's going to be some hard tribe and tribulations. We got to get through that as a team, and to go 8-8, to have the potential of being in the playoffs, that's going to give them that motivation in year 3 to really get it done. It makes sense to me for all of these reasons. But most importantly, man, you got to look at this deal and you got to say, this is going to make or break Cliff Kingsbury. What did I just say? He's an offensive-minded coach. So when it comes to the defense, it is all Vance Joseph. I don't think that Cliff has any impact or effect on that defense. It is all done by Vance Joseph. He takes care of the offense, does anything else. What we've seen in the first 2 years with Cliff Kingsbury is the fact that this team is undisciplined. They make a lot of mistakes that kill themselves. We talk about the penalties. They basically were leading the league in penalties for a majority of the year. And a lot of those tough games, really tight games, they killed themselves with a holding, an offsides penalty, something that just shoots themselves in the foot. And that is discipline. They never learned from that as the year went along. It was from week 1 to week 17, they had those issues, and they never got them fixed. So when we look at adding J.J. Watt, he's going to add that discipline to the defense. And if anybody's going to fall off sides, you're going to have to answer J.J. Watt and Vance Joseph. You don't want to do that type of thing. So, great, you're going to fix that on defense, but a lot of it had to do on the offensive side. So maybe in his third year with Kyler Murray, we can get these things done. Cliff Kingsbury has 2 more years left on his contract. I'm saying that this J.J. Watt deal is going to put him either on the hot seat or put him at a different level in the coaching staff. This is going to make or break Cliff Kingsbury, because if we look back at it and we say that J.J. Watt deal changed everything for the Arizona Cardinals, because I personally think that with J.J. Watt now and what they've done in the past 2 years and that progression, they are a playoff team. They are a definite playoff team. In a difficult NFC West, I'm very interested to see what happens in the NFC West title run, because 49ers are coming back and they're healthy. They're back. So I'm interested to see what the San Francisco 49ers do now that everybody's back from IR. And then you have Seattle, depending on what happens with Russell Wilson. With Russell Wilson, they are definitely in the hunt. Without Russell Wilson, they are bottom of that division and basically bottom of the NFC. And then you have the Los Angeles Rams, who improved, upgraded in quarterback, and they were that one quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. Have a really solid running game with Cam Akers, have a really solid wide receiver core, and of course their defense was the best in the NFL last year. So Rams, most likely. 49ers, I still think they're great, even though they lost a lot of guys on defense, or they're going to lose a lot of guys on defense. Arizona's going to be better. Seattle, depending on what happens with Russell Wilson. But that is a very competitive NFC West. So if you're Arizona, you have to be better. You can't go 8-8 again. You probably can't make it through with 9-7. You have to be double-digit wins in this league, especially in that division. So 10-6 is a minimum for this Arizona Cardinals team this upcoming season. I think J.J. Watt gets them to that point because their defense does improve and their offense is going to be explosive as always. No matter what happens with Larry Fitzgerald, I think Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins are going to get it done, and Kyler Murray is going to be a lot smarter this year. With all those things being said, if this goes wrong for Cliff Kingsbury, if he doesn't make the playoffs in the next 2 years, and this defense doesn't improve to a certain level that makes them competent in this league, they were about middle of the tier in pretty much every category this year. They only gave up 22 points a game, which is pretty good, but when you're 8-8 and you don't score a lot of points toward the end of the season, that really doesn't matter. Basically all the elements of this team really deteriorated as the year went along, and losing 5 of the last 7 doesn't help at all. And you needed to win those last few games, especially in the last month of the season. I think that Patriots game is what really killed them at the end. They needed to win that Patriots game, and they didn't. If you don't go through to the playoffs either this year or next year, or you don't see a lot of improvement as the year goes on, Cliff Kingsbury is back to college. He's back to the Big 12. He can be a coach somewhere else. It's going to be fine. He's going to find another job. He can be an offensive coordinator anywhere in this league or anywhere in college. But if he wants to be a head coach, he needs to take them into the playoffs and win a couple of games in the playoffs. Do I think that J.J. Watt adds that level of improvement to the Arizona Cardinals? Absolutely not. I like what they're doing on defense. And I like the dynamic duo of Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt. Love what they're doing with Budda Baker. But they got to answer some questions in that secondary alongside Budda Baker. Patrick Peterson, most likely going to hit free agency and not going to return to Arizona. Even then, Patrick Peterson, who was their best corner last year, showed a lot of moments of bad cornerback play. He had the glimpses of when he was drafted, rookie season Patrick Peterson, all-pro Patrick Peterson, and then moments of this guy can't hang anymore against some of the great wide receivers. So it makes sense that Arizona wants to move on from Patrick Peterson. So then that leaves them with a lot of questions in that secondary. Isaiah Simmons, what is he going to do in his second year? Because he's the answer to that linebacker core, and without him, where do you go? Evan Weaver, who, by the way, still won't count him out. Evan Weaver is a great draft pick from last season, so stay tuned. And on offense, my only question really is that running game. Whether they go for Kenyon Drake, whether they go for Chris Edmonds, or maybe go with the rookie from this past season, Eno Benjamin, who I loved out of college at the seventh round. I'm still not completely sold on the Arizona Cardinals. I would like to see them really succeed in the NFL, and I want them to get past the playoffs, which I do think they will this next season. But do they automatically become a contender in the NFC or even in the Super Bowl because of J.J. Watt? Absolutely not. And now, here's why. When the report comes out that Cleveland and Indianapolis both offered more money to J.J. Watt and have more value at what he can do in those positions, and you pick Arizona was maybe 4th or 5th on the list for me that made sense for J.J. Watt. I looked at an article that said, the reasons why J.J. went to Arizona, that, of course, it was Vance Joseph, that connection there, paired up with Chandler Jones. I think one of them was he gets to play the Texans. And I'm like, I don't think that really matters because no matter who plays the Texans, they're going to beat them. Everyone's going to beat the Texans this year. No one's really going to do anything. By the way, breaking news, Dolphins cut Kyle Van Noy. Interesting. Just after one season of this 4-year, $51 million contract. That's incredible because I actually like the fact that Miami picked up Kyle Van Noy. So maybe he goes back to New England. If not, Cowboys. Sign him. Anyways, here's the thing about this, is that J.J. Watt is 31. He spent 10 years of his career in Houston, and he gave everything he had to Houston. Makes sense. I love what he did for Houston, and he was the face of the franchise. Of course, until Deshaun Watson showed up, and then he took over. JJ's dealt with a lot of injuries. JJ Watt has been out for many games, for seasons even, due to the fact that he's been injured that much. So I don't think he has that much left in him to play at 100%. And maybe 1 or 2 injuries away from just retiring. This man has given everything he has to football. So I don't expect him to make a move that just says, oh, I'm taking the money. Oh, I'm just going to go for a big contract, and I want to play at a good system. What doesn't make sense to me is that if this isn't about a Super Bowl, I get it. But isn't your main goal as a guy that's won Defensive Player of the Year, has been arguably the best player in the NFL defensively for many seasons, and has been a stat leader for many seasons, wouldn't your milestone or maybe your next goal be to make the playoffs, win playoff games, and to ultimately win a Super Bowl? Because it wasn't going to happen in Houston. There was no chance that Houston was going to win a Super Bowl, even with Deshaun Watson, because that organization was terrible. That defense outside of J.J. Watt was terrible. They tried everything, but they never knew how to get a secondary down, so it didn't matter. It wasn't going to happen in Houston. So after 10 years of you saying, we barely made the playoffs a few times, we never won a playoff game. Well, we technically, yes, you did. Excuse me. I forgot about 2 years ago. And then just got embarrassed. But you don't go past a certain round. You don't make the NFC Championship or AFC Championship. Man, I'm flustered. But you weren't going to do it in Houston. So your options that have been laid out on the table include Cleveland, who made it to the divisional round last year and was really a touchdown away from making the AFC Championship. So I think Cleveland's better this year. And if you would have added J.J. Watt, that defense, who is going to improve next year, would have been a lot better. So Cleveland would have been a definite Super Bowl contender. Buffalo is a definite Super Bowl contender now. Add J.J. Watt and finally add some pass rush to that team. Dear God, I want to see what Buffalo can do. Indianapolis, who played Buffalo hard last year in that wild card, and they are, I would say, a quarterback away and maybe another playmaker away from being a Super Bowl contender. J.J. Watt could have filled that hole. New York, for me, made sense. I don't think that would have been a Super Bowl contender, but I would have loved to see the dynamic of Robert Saleh and J.J. Watt, so I understand. Pittsburgh, they're a quarterback away and maybe a running back away from being a Super Bowl contender. I mean, they played really good through 11 weeks of football. Dallas, whatever. And, I mean, can you name another one? Not really. San Francisco? I mean, maybe the salary cap. I don't know. That would have been a definite Super Bowl contender. And Arizona, to me, outside of New York, makes the least sense for a Super Bowl. I don't see it happening. I don't see a Super Bowl anywhere in the Arizona Cardinals' future. I think they're a good future, but not a great future. And with or without J.J. Watt, it just doesn't make a difference. I don't think it makes that much of a dramatic difference to where he gets them past the playoffs, gets them into an NFC Championship, and gets them a Super Bowl. I don't think it happens. I think Cleveland does that. I think Pittsburgh does that. I think Indy does that. So, for me, when we look back at this deal, good money, not great money. He could have gotten a lot more. And with Arizona now looking into their salary cap and saying Hassan Reddick was going to be franchised, but they just probably don't have enough money to sign him to a franchise because they only have like $11 million in salary cap space. They would have had to pay him like $17, $18 million in the franchise tag. So Reddick is going to leave Arizona most likely, so that leaves Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt and Budda Baker. Does that complete a whole defense to where you can get it done? Maybe not. We'll see what happens with that dynamic. But I'm saying that Chandler Jones and Budda Baker are great players, but you could have had Myles Garrett. You could have had Olivier Vernon. You could have had Grant Delpit, Denzel Ward. You could have had Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry. You could have had one of the best offensive lines in football and been a part of a great defensive line in Cleveland that definitely makes it to the playoffs and maybe makes it to the AFC Championship. It's very likely that they do so with you on the team. Indianapolis, who I say Carson Wentz plays great this year. Jonathan Taylor is going to be a top 5 running back in this league. Guaranteed, that man runs hard. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be a great wide receiver next year. See what happens with T.Y. Hilton. But they are a great offense with a great offensive line, even with Costanzo retired. You still got Quentin Nelson. Hard. Defense. Malik Hooker is a free agent. We'll see what happens there. Great free agent signing for anybody that needs a safety. But when you have J.J. Watt leading the way, and you have great linebackers, great defensive ends, that defense, even harder. That Colts team definitely wins the AFC South. Oh, and they're a menace in the playoffs. This team beat the Green Bay Packers in overtime. They were a drive away from beating the Buffalo Bills. This team is really good under Frank Reich, and I think they're going to be better at quarterback with Carson Wentz over Phillip Rivers. So, Colts, definitely Super Bowl contender for me this next season, and J.J. Watt would have been a part of that. That makes more sense, plus you get more money. Pittsburgh, I'd say they signed Sam Darnold. They look at free agency to see what happens there. They have a great defense. Get a running back in the draft, like I'm saying, like ETN, or the name that I forgot last episode. For anybody that caught that, like I just couldn't think of a running back. Najee Harris. Imagine Najee Harris in Pittsburgh alongside Sam Darnold or whatever quarterback is in play outside of Big Ben. Big Ben should not be the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Big Ben's the Steelers quarterback next season, they are not making the Super Bowl. They are not making the AFC Championship, and they barely make the playoffs, in my opinion, especially in that division that gets better. But like that's what I'm saying. Like, these guys have potential to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm saying Super Bowl constantly throughout all these different names, and then we get to Arizona. Doesn't work for me. It doesn't make sense for me if I'm trying to win a ring to go to Arizona right now. If you're just trying to build a future and improve this defense and see what happens, it would be a great story if they do end up winning the Super Bowl and Cliff Kingsbury can just ultimately say, like, hey, I told you motherfuckers, like, I'm a good coach. That's a tough reach. That's a hard reach. Can he get it done? Most likely not. So, good for J.J. Watt. He gets out of Houston. I think that's the biggest win out of anything. I think he wanted to get out of Houston no matter what because of the organization and how bad it was going to be this upcoming season. So he's the first domino to fall. First is J.J. Watt. They cut Duke Johnson a few days ago. And they're going to get rid of Will Fuller. They have to. He's going to ask for an out. And Deshaun Watson has come out and said to David Culley, I'm not coming here. I'm not playing for you guys. And I will pay any fine to not play for you guys. That's how bad it is. So this is the first domino to fall for the Houston Texans' downfall. No pun intended. But for J.J. Watt to get out of Houston, great. He had better options. I don't think that the reason behind Vance Joseph and playing the Texans this year that was his deciding factors, I think he made a mistake. And that's just on me. Good for him, though. I'm not going to tell him how to live his life. Good for him. He got his money. He's playing with a pretty good defense that's going to be better this year. I'm just saying that when we look back at his career and we say, man, that should have been a guy that won a ring. Well, we can't put all the blame on Houston when he had the decision to go to Cleveland, to go to Indy, go to Pittsburgh, or any Super Bowl contender this year. Like, he had the opportunity to go to Buffalo, take a team-friendly deal, and say, don't worry about your pass rush. I got you. He had that opportunity. He had the chance to go to those places, but he chose Arizona. The reasoning behind it, whether that comes out or not, of like, this is why I came here, is up in the air right now. And I don't know if we'll ever get that answer. But if it comes out and says, I just wanted to reunite with DeAndre Hopkins, I'm saying right now, that's dumb. That's really dumb. Because I would rather play with Myles Garrett. I'd rather play with that defense in Indy, build something greater in New York, or play with my brother in Pittsburgh. Because all of those other opportunities outside of the Jets wins you a Super Bowl, most likely. And he finally gets his ring. He retires as one of the greats. That's not going to happen in Arizona. It's only 2 years. So if he stays healthy these next 2 years and says, I just want to chase a ring, go right ahead. Do you, boo. But for now, 2 years, no J.J. Watt ring for us. That's going to do it for this episode of the Bubble Blood Sports Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this. We're coming back for sure these next coming days because I have the next 2 days off. You'll love to see it. We're talking Dak Prescott. We're talking Dallas Cowboys because there is more and more stuff coming out each and every day about why the Cowboys suck. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow. And we'll see you next time on the Bubblehead Sports Podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now, would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked?